Hi guys, welcome to another breastfeeding video. This subject is going to be about breastfeeding when you have a baby prematurely and how you can provide enough milk for your baby while your baby's in the hospital for however long you're going to, need the baby in the hospital. And in some cases, it could be 3 months in the hospital, 2 months in the hospital. It could be just even a week or 2 weeks, whatever. My daughter was born 6 weeks early, and she was in the hospital for 8 days. So I totally understand what you're going through. And so when I'm speaking and talking to you about what things you can do, I'm speaking from actual experience of how things work and run. And I know every hospital is different with certain things, but mainly what we're going to talk about is pretty much the same, all around, across the board. So how can you increase your milk and get enough milk when you can't breastfeed the baby? The baby, is on feeding tubes. So it's really, really important that as soon as possible you start pumping. So if you know the baby's coming early, you can start pumping like even right after labor. They say that that's when your prolactin is extremely high. And so they say that the sooner you start to pump is the quicker your milk will come in, and you'll be able to adjust your milk supply to what you need. And the biggest thing really to success is that pumping as soon as possible, and then continuing to pump the way a baby would feed. And in the hospital, they have them like on a schedule, and they'll usually tell you like how many bottles they need, and it's only usually like I think it's like 1/4 of an ounce, and then it gradually goes up. So what you would do is they would give you sterile bottles, because they typically like to keep the bottles sterile for you to use when you pump. So what I did was I had my daughter on a Friday evening, and so Saturday morning I left the hospital because she was transferred to a hospital like 30 minutes away. So I left the hospital, and I went to see her, and then I started looking for pumps. But now it was Saturday, and it was really, really tough to find like a loaner hospital-grade breast pump. Now, if you have WIC, they do provide that, so immediately you can contact them and meet up to get one. Usually the hospitals will offer pumps to loan, and if they don't, I would call like other hospitals, because usually, like, I borrowed one from one hospital, and then when I found out WIC offers pumps for free, then I went with WIC. I returned their pump, which cost me like $50. I probably went through 3 pumps. Like, I started with, like, I finally got a hold of somebody Saturday night, Sunday morning, and it was just somebody that does it on the side, and I got a pump from her, and I started pumping, and then I turned the pump back in to her after a month, and then I got the hospital one for like a week or so, and then I found out that WIC offers them, so I got one from WIC and then was able to return. So I paid like $50 a month, and then you have to buy kits. But a lot of times, if your baby's in the hospital, they'll give you kits to use, so you don't even have to buy one. You just have to make sure you get a kit that works with your pump. So if you have like a Medela hospital grade pump, then typically the hospitals have a generic type of pump, kit that they can use on those, each different pump. It just depends on what they carry. They might have both. So definitely check your resources, find out who rents pumps, how much they cost, do you need to buy a kit? Where can you get a kit? Can you get one from the nursery? And then, so right away, so by Sunday, I had a pump, and you start pumping literally every 2 hours, as if you had a baby. And even more so, if you are wanting to make sure that your supply is high, you can go every hour and a half. And what I did was I did every 2 hours, even up to an hour and a half, every 2 hours during the day, and then at night I did every 3 hours. So you can do that. You don't want 3 hours to go by, though, consistently. Every 2 hours is the best, probably the most practical. And then at night you can minimize it. Although at night is probably the highest time your milk is the highest supply you have is at night. So you could, choose to pump all night every 2 hours and then not pump during the day. It's really up to you how you want to do it, but you need to make sure you're pumping every 2 hours. Now, you're going to want to start that, like I said, as soon as baby's born. The hospital can usually provide you a pump to start pumping, so you can get milk to the baby right away. And usually they're really good about that, and then helping you find the resources to get a pump when you're home. And a lot of times insurance companies are now paying for that if a baby's in a NICU. So you can definitely check into that as well. So check all your resources so that by the time you go home from the hospital, you have a pump. Now, I didn't. So I was like, and it was a Sunday, I just remember being so, I cried over a pump, and not over my daughter going into that was the first time I cried, because I couldn't handle anything else. It was I need to get this milk out. So your milk is going to come in or increase by day 3, 4, 5. Just depends on you, if you had a C-section, if it's your first baby, that kind of thing. And your body makes a ton of milk so that it knows how much milk you need by how much milk you take from it. So you have to make sure that you, typically empty the breast, but with engorgement, you just continue to pump every 2 hours, because in most cases, you don't want all the milk that the body produces. It's usually less than what the body is producing. So just pump every 2 hours or sooner if that's how you feel about it, if you choose to. And usually slowly, they have to, now with my hospital, they did not allow me to breastfeed her at all. They wanted her to suck on a bottle before they would send her home. She couldn't even suck on me. And the reason is they want to make sure she can suck, for one, and they want to make sure she's eating. So they'll usually want you to do it by a bottle. But if you can get them to let her breastfeed other times, like in between the times that because they actually schedule them and feed them at that time. So you want to be there for that. If you're finding that you don't have enough milk to get her through a whole day or whatever, start pumping a little bit more. Maybe at night pump a few times every 2 hours, and then, let 3 or 4 go at the end, or however you choose to do it. You'll just need to add maybe a couple more feedings so the body makes more milk to keep up, because I had a little tough time keeping up. And it was probably because I did not pump from the time she was born until 3 days later. So if I had pumped in the beginning, I probably would have been in a better situation, but it was difficult. So I did finally get to the point that she needed, and by the time she was home, she was not on bottles at all. Thankfully, she latched right away, and that's kind of where I believe the tube feeding was good, because she was getting the tube feeding and not really sucking a bottle. She wasn't constantly getting feedings on a bottle. So it was mainly tube feeding, and then when she's getting ready to go home, then they, want to start giving her a bottle to make sure she can suck and actually get food, and they can see how much she's taking. Because if she's not taking enough, then they have to make sure that she gets the rest through a feeding tube or whatever. So those are kind of my tips. Now, as far as pumping goes, I recommend that you hand massage the breast before you start. You can start with one and, hand express the one and then hand express the other. And if you're doing both breasts at the same time, that's fine. So just massage them, mess around with the nipple a little bit, you know, getting that milk moving a little bit. And then when you pump and you notice that you're not getting any more out, then you can stop it and do some more massaging and actually hand express, sometimes up to an ounce more if you're hand expressing. And it's a perfect place to learn at the hospital because they can show you. So you can do that as well. And I recommend that because you can get more milk out of a pumping if you massage the breast a little bit before you pump, and then after you're not getting any more out, you hand express. Also, record your baby's cry and have a picture of your baby so that when you're pumping, you can see your baby, you hear the baby cry, and your body reacts to it. The hormones release and your milk releases. Sometimes when you're so stressed, you're worried, the milk won't release. So you have to try to like not watch the pump, but to keep yourself mind focused on maybe you're reading a book, maybe you're watching TV, maybe you're just staring at your child. Whatever it is, make sure that you are relaxed and you're allowing your body to, release that milk. So stressing and anxious, it won't release because it does two things. Prolactin produces and oxytocin releases. So you need to make sure that you're, try as much as you can not to stress. And yes, you're going to have some stress because your baby's in the hospital. But if you're looking at your baby and you're hearing, you record a cry and you're hearing it, it automatically releases the milk for you. So that's probably one of my biggest pumping tips I recommend. I did not get this tip until I became a lactation specialist. Then I learned that stuff. I wish I had known it then. But I will say because of the feeding tubes, I didn't have a problem with her latching right away. I mean, she struggled because her mouth was so little, but we did fine. As soon as I got home, all I ever had to do was breastfeed. She didn't lose a bunch of weight. She was gaining good after that. So don't feel like the baby's delivered early and now all your breastfeeding plans are out the door. Or maybe you weren't planning on breastfeeding at all, but now you want to. So you kind of need to learn what to do and how to do it. So that would be my recommendation. I hope that helps you guys. If you need more information on it, please feel free to comment below. You can check my Facebook. I'm also on Twitter, Get Real Mommy on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Tumblr. Facebook, I have a link in down below that you'll see. You can click on that for my Facebook page. You can email me. You can comment below, and I will be sure to answer any questions that I can answer for you or even help you find the resources if you need help to find them. So please take a moment to subscribe, continue watching, check out some of the other videos to see if any of them help you even more. I have some working and breastfeeding videos that talk a lot about pumping, so you might get some tips watching that as well, even though it's a different situation. But just remember, the more you pump, the more milk you make. The more the baby demands milk, the more milk you make. So when the baby breastfeeds a lot, then it tells the body we need a lot. So you have to replace her feeding with the pump. And of course, you're never going to get the amount that she could get out, but you're going to get out what you need as long as you continue to pump on a really regular basis. Don't be missing a bunch. Stick to a consistent pattern, and your breast will begin to make milk and be ready at those times that you are consistent. So I hope that helps you guys. Please let me know if you have any questions. I am here to help you. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys again soon.